over that, my children are going to have the exact same struggle. Now, God is the same. I mean, even though this dysfunction that brings both Abraham and Isaac to the place where they're like, we need to lie, because if we don't lie, we're going to die. God is still the same God as well, where he does not abandon Isaac in that moment any more than he abandoned Abraham. But it really does bring that to light. There are things that we may learn. Well, this is how we've always done it. If you recognize today that there's something wrong with the way that you've always done things, look to God to find the righteous, holy way to do things. One other story. A campus minister that I served with would tell the story about the first time he and his wife had Thanksgiving. And then again, like probably the fourth year or so. His wife was making a turkey, and then as she cooked it, she just cooked the turkey. And he said, why'd you leave that piece on? What piece? The piece at the very end. It's part of the turkey. So you're supposed to cut that off. I never heard that. My mom always cuts it off. You're supposed to cut that piece off. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. So for the next couple of years, she always cuts that piece off. Then she has Thanksgiving, and her husband's mother's there, and she asks, she says, why do you have to cut that last piece of the turkey off? She said, what? Well, the back part, this part right here, you always have to cut it off. Why? Because your son told me that that's the way it has to be done. She goes, oh, because my pan is too small. And he felt, this is the way to do it. That's the right way. You're doing it wrong. You got to cut it off. And sometimes it's no more than that's just the way that I had to do it in that moment. There are things that I may have learned that someone was doing the best that he knew how to do in that moment. But now, with a greater knowledge of God and with a greater relationship with God, we may know better. If you know better, do better. But I see many more things in this section of Scripture as well. This is probably one of the only Isaac-centric stories that we have. Now, Isaac makes appearances, but this is the only story where Isaac is sort of the main person. Because we're going to get into Jacob and Esau a little bit more, and Isaac's name will be brought up some more, but to this point, we had stories dealing with Isaac that dealt primarily with the servant who went to get Rebekah. We have stories dealing with Isaac that dealt more with his father who was struggling with the idea, well, not struggling, but who took him to sacrifice him at the place that God told him to. But here we get the story about Isaac, and this is really about Isaac. So it's impressive, and it's probably a little bit more meaningful because this is one of the few accounts that we have of this nature. One of the things I see is that God speaks to him before anything happens. And he tells him that he's going to bless him. Why does God say he's going to bless Isaac? Every time he says, I'm going to bless you. Is it because of Isaac? Because you've done this thing, Isaac. I will remember you forever. I will bless you. No. God says, because Abraham did these things, because Abraham was this way, I will remember you and I will bless you. It's not really because of anything that Isaac did. God does bless Isaac just as he promised. In this whole thing, one question came up, which we may talk about more tonight. What happened to Abraham's money? Isaac inherited everything at Abraham's death. If you remember, Abraham was a mighty prince among the people who he lived. He was so wealthy that the people were like, look, dude, take whatever you want. We're cool. Don't worry about paying me for the grave site. It's yours if you want it. And the way that this section reads, it reads as if